Sakara's Price from the historic Wall Center, Paterson from Lynn Valley, our Canucks reporter, and of course the host of Rink-Wide Vancouver.
Did you get any sleep last night, or did the foghorns keep you up as well? Because that was a symphony at around 10 p.m. last night.
Yeah, I heard a few of those. I got the full effect driving home from the studio over Lionsgate after the hockey game and after Rink-Wide. And yeah, I mean, I've driven Lionsgate 1,000 times in my life. I'm not sure I've ever felt it that sort of ensconced in fog. So it had the full
crazy
San Francisco effect going on there. It was kind of cool, but yeah, fog can go away now. And I liked the sunshine yesterday.
Yeah.
This morning over Burrard Bridge, it was also like a mauvish tint to the fog. It was like something out of the movies.
Aesthetic.
It really was. Okay, enough about fog.
Speaking of being in a fog.
Yeah,
that's about it.
So, and this might not be the sexiest topic to discuss off the top, but 6 losses in 19 after carrying leads into the third period, and I saw 4 of the past 9 games you've let multi-goal leads get away. Jeff, this team is always underpinned by great team defense, right? 5 guys playing fantastic team defense and then getting the saves when that breaks down. What's the status of the overall team defense as you see it right now?
Well, certainly the defense core isn't good enough. We've known that really all season long. But in saying that, it's the same defense core that's allowed them to build these leads, right? So they're able to get out in front. They just can't lock it down at that point. So there's a couple of things at play. I thought Rick Tocchet, as he usually does, had his finger on the pulse post-game last night where he talked about panic threshold and the fact that guys just aren't making the one play necessary. And I think if you look at last night's game, again, they give up 5 for the 10th time in 39 games. Pretty tough to win in this league if you're giving up 5 on the regular the way that they are. But why are they giving up 5? In a 3-all tie, that Lane Hutson goal, like people will look and say, oh, just a brutal bounce off Quinn Hughes, unfortunate, and it was. But if you track it back, Montreal enters the Canucks zone, and the Canucks break up the initial rush. Max Sasson on the back check then just kind of blindly slaps the puck to the side boards. Now, Sasson has to make a better play, but I guess he's thinking that Phil DiGiuseppe is going to be on the wing, and DiGiuseppe will be able to clear the zone. DiGiuseppe is a beat late getting back into the play, and there's Lane Hutson to step up, grab a loose puck on the side wall, dive down, and bank it in off Quinn Hughes. So sometimes it is those small things that add up in a big way. And what does Tocchet talk about? Compounding problems. And we've seen that way more this year, I think, than last year. Mistakes are going to happen. The other team's trying to pressure you and score goals too. Mistakes happen. It's can you limit the number of mistakes? Can you mitigate the damage? And this team just seems incapable of that. And all of a sudden, 2 mistakes in the same sequence at this level, puck's going to wind up in the back of your net.
4-point night for Miller. He moves into a tie for second place in team scoring, 15 points behind Quinn Hughes. Is that a breakout game for JT, or is that a breakthrough? Are we going to see the JT of old from this point forward?
Yeah, I need to see him back it up, but I hope it, at the very least, serves as a reminder to him that, hey, I still got it. And we just haven't seen it. And obviously, he has been dealing with a number of things, going all the way back to training camp. I had the big night, opening night against Calgary, where he had 3 points, and he had the Gordie Howe hat trick and the late goal and all those types of things. Had an overtime winner in Florida. But really, those are sort of the 2 moments of the season for JT Miller. So I just hope on a personal level that this is a reminder that, yes, he can impact hockey games, that pucks can go in for him. And it was a well-rounded night everywhere but the face-off circle, and that's usually an area that he's really good, but we'll cut him a little slack there because, shots on goal. I like the shot from distance. The first goal, second one, getting to the front of the net, swooping in and grabbing a rebound there, a couple of assists. Again, I think he's an underrated playmaker, and we saw some of his playmaking chops on full display there, and was trying to be physical. And I know you guys have spent a fair bit of time talking about the hit on Lekkerimaki, and what a hit. I mean, that was just a classic hit. I had no problem with the hit. I'm trying super hard to get past this idea that guys have to fight after throwing the body the way that Kaelin Gooley did on John Lekkerimaki, but I thought moments later, JT Miller tries to exact a little bit of revenge when he takes Lane Hudson into the end boards pretty heavily behind the Montreal net. And so I thought JT was trying to do the types of things that make him such an effective player. But guys, this is the other part of the equation. How many things have to go right for the Vancouver Canucks to win hockey games? JT Miller has a season-high 4 points. They get the captain back. He plays 26 minutes. He has a couple of assists. The prize prospect scores and has an assist. So a 2-point night for the first time in his NHL career. Oh, yeah, their leading goal scorer, Jake DeBrusk, he comes through on the power play when they're down and need a goal. All those things happen for the Vancouver Canucks. Check the boxes. Check. And still at the end of the night, they give up 5 and they lose. And that's just sort of what this group is. You never know from period to period or night to night. And unfortunately, there's just too many things. Even when things are going right for them, they end up going wrong.
And that leads you back to the defensive play because, they've not been scoring goals. They scored goals last night. 4 goals is an ample amount of goals to score to get a win in the National Hockey League. But this group of trees that gets so panicked with the puck not perfectly on their stick blade, exiting the zone is an adventure, which brings me to a guy that is not a savior. He is not without fault, but he's just different. Why do they hate Eric Brännström all of a sudden? Like, why is he persona non grata when very clearly the trees cannot move the puck out of their own zone?
Yeah, and there's a couple of things on that front, and I'll get back to Brännström in a sec, but did you guys notice Carson Soucy played 4 shifts in the third period? Like, he was having a tough night, and on the sequence that led to the Kalen Gooley goal that Rick Tocchet afterwards thought, it made it 3-2. It brought Montreal back in the game. It got the fans back into it. It was just a really tough sequence for Carson Soucy, and clearly Adam Foote and the coaching staff saw that as much. So he plays 4 shifts in the third period. Well, all right, he's having a tough night. You're going to park him. That leads to more Derek Forbort, more Noah Juleson. And Forbort left the game for a while there, and I didn't think he was going to come back, so he's playing on a bad wheel, and all of a sudden he's out there killing a penalty in overtime. I'm not pinning the loss on Derek Forbort, but again, you just see how quickly it gets thin for the Vancouver Canucks if a guy like Carson Soucy, who has had his issues this season, if he's having an off night, they're looking for alternatives. So the Brännström thing is beyond me, Blake. I don't have an answer for you other than he's not tall, which, again, how's tall working for the Vancouver Canucks this year?
Yes, exactly.
And for them to choose Guillaume Brisebois over Brännström, the 2 games prior to this, they get Quinn Hughes back, so obviously Quinn's going to play and play a lot, and he did. But I don't get it. Like the Nashville game last Friday, they get shut out. They had 3 power plays. Didn't even have a shot on goal on any of the power plays. And you got Brännström sitting in the press box when Quinn Hughes is out. Like, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. And that was back-to-back. They had played the night before as well. Like, how about some fresh legs and just a sort of shot of adrenaline into the lineup. So, yeah, there's a lot. And this comes back to Rick Tocchet. Last year, the Midas touch. And we've said there have been a lot of things with coaching this year that don't fully add up. And I think you heap this on the list as well. But it goes beyond Rick Tocchet. Like, at what point is management going to move? Like, we have talked till we're blue in the face about bolstering this blue line, and here they are bumping up against the midway mark of the season on Friday, and it's the same group that wasn't good enough on opening night, and now without Filip Hronek and without Hughes for 4 games, obviously was exposed on a lot of levels. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with management. I thought they would have thrown this group some sort of lifeline, but electing to play the patient game. But again, 1 win since Christmas. It's not really working out for them right now.
Well, I wonder if Tocchet scratching Brännström is his way of playing the impatient game and messaging up on high that, guys, we need somebody here. And I'm not playing this guy. Anyways, Lekkerimaki. And when you were in here for Blake a couple of weeks ago, Jeff, we were pounding the fists and tables saying, look, minus Paterson, minus Hughes in the lineup with Hoglander and Joshua and others in these big scoring droughts, this kid has to play. And watching him last night, this kid has to play.
Yeah, I want to see more of him. 2 goals in 6 NHL games now, 3 points in 6 games, like half a point a game guy through a very short sample size. But, oh yeah, look at that. He's got 2 goals in the season. So does Nils Hoglander. So does Dakota Joshua. And we know what a struggle it's been for a guy like Hoglander. you love to see this from Lekkerimaki. He scores at every level that he plays. He is a hired gun, essentially. And for him to be able to get to the NHL and have early success, it sort of takes me back to Brock Besser. When he broke in, remember, turned pro out of college. We all remember his debut in Minnesota, but he ended up with 4 goals in 9 games the remainder of that season. And that set him up to score 29 the following year. Like, I think it proved to him that, hey, I can do this. I can score in the NHL. And so there are parallels there. Obviously, right shot guys, right wingers expected to score. And yeah, I mean, look, it's great that at 20 years of age, he's playing in the NHL. But one thing, if he gets the call up and he kind of spins his wheels, for him to have immediate success. And kind of frequently, his 2 goals have come from almost the same spot on the ice. Slightly different plays, obviously. One-timer against the Islanders last night off the rush. And I think the whole world knew that he was going to look off Tyler Myers and shoot the puck, and made the right call there. Look, we mentioned the big hit, kind of welcome back to the NHL moment, but a little bit of revenge in that it was Kalen Gooley on the 2-on-1. He was the defenseman on the 2-on-1. So, yes, Lekkerimaki takes his lick early, but gets a measure of revenge by scoring there. So, I like the way the Canucks have handled him. At training camp in the preseason, he played with Paterson, and really almost every game that he's been in the NHL, he's exclusively been with JT Miller. So they're putting him in a position to succeed. He is succeeding. Yeah, again, it's only 6 games, but this is a really good news story for both the player and the hockey club.
Do you feel bad for Nils Hoglander? He has shown some signs. He's got a few assists in the last 6-7 games. So there's a pulse to his game at the very least offensively, but a penalty that is soft. But you get it. I mean, it was there, and you're going to have a bit of a target on your back when you're playing without a stick. You attract attention. What do you think he's thinking? What do you think they said to him after the game?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that the coaching staff's patience has run awfully thin with him. He was a healthy scratch there a couple of games before Christmas. Now, since Christmas, and with Paterson out of the lineup, 3 assists, so 3 points in the 5 games. Like, that is a little bit of traction for a guy that just
something. Yeah.
And I like the play on the Miller goal. Wins a battle down low, carries the puck to the corner, sees the player wide open, and makes the pass. Like, there was a lot to like in that sequence, but I pointed this out on social. Like, he's tied with Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers in minor penalties taken. He barely plays for the Vancouver Canucks. Like, a big part of
and you play wing. Like, these guys are defending all the time. Like, dear God.
But beyond that, like, everybody's up in arms about, 8-10 minutes of ice time, and you're the team leader in minor penalties taken? Like, Max Sasson doesn't take a bunch of penalties and doesn't play a lot, but has found ways to contribute and be productive. So penalties are absolutely a huge part of the Nils Hoglander story this season. And I'm with you, Blake. Like, sure, maybe a soft call, but you're putting the ref in a position to make a judgment decision, a split-second decision late in the hockey game, and without a stick, rarely do good things happen. And sure enough, a call is made. Would you love a penalty kill? Yes, but again, Montreal 4-on-3, the skill
4-on-3, so much space. Oh,
yep. And so, end of the ball game with Nils Hoglander in the penalty box. It'll be interesting. We're all waiting to see if Elias Pettersson's activated and is going to be ready on Wednesday. They don't have any healthy forwards available right now. So, is Hoglander going to come out of the lineup? It's possible if Pettersson's good to go. If not, then he'll stay. But how much he gets played and what this does, again, to this trust factor between the coach and the player that was already frayed, to say the very least, it's just hard to know. 32 games now without a goal for Nils Hoglander.
You know what I want it to happen? Like, there's always like a Division II football team that goes for it on every 4th down, and we get some empirical evidence about the risks of it.
It's usually a high school team, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah,
I want somebody to have an in-house rule. You lose your stick breaks, you go straight to the bench. See what happens, because there was a moment before that comes around back to Nils Hoglander's side where the puck's in the opposite corner. He's standing at the top of the far circle all by himself, just staring at space with no stick. Go to the bench. Like, have somebody else come over. Like, there was time.
You're better off playing a few seconds 5-on-4 than you are playing 2 full minutes 5-on-3.
Yeah, 5-on-4.5. I don't know. I would love to see that happen, just to see what the end results are at the end of the year. We'll see.
The alternative hockey league. I like it. Alternative world. The Parallel Universe Hockey League. I'm with you. There are a bunch of kind of rule changes I'd love to see just for one season in some separate league that's in a lab somewhere that allows us to sort of boil down and take these results.
What are we doing here?
We should mention that, look, Canucks penalty kill for the most part with the big redwoods on the back end, and that is one area I think that the size has helped the Vancouver Canucks. Penalty kill has been pretty good. But it got torched twice last night in the third period in overtime. First time since the loss to Tampa a month ago that they've given up 2 power play goals in a game. So it doesn't happen often. But again, when we ran that laundry list of all the good things that happen, it shows you how quickly that can derail a good night for a lot of guys by giving up 2 power play goals. And you lose a special teams battle in a 1-goal game, you end up losing the hockey game more often than not.
Mm-hmm. Last question. It's our Surrey Mitsubishi poll. Did you have a problem with no response after the goalie hit on Lekkerimaki?
No. Again, I think it was a case of a young guy returning to the National Hockey League and reminded of it in a painful way. It was almost a perfect body check. Like, as I watched it a couple of times, the contact was incredible, amazing. But it wasn't dirty. It was just absolutely catching your guy in the trolley tracks and keep your head up, kid. I mean, that is sort of the lesson here. But he gets his measure of revenge. Not only a goal, but the assist, 20 seconds apart. We talked about Miller trying, I think, if you're going to hit our skill guys, we'll hit your skill guys. It doesn't always have to result in a fight. I will say, though, and Rick Tocchet mentioned it after the morning skate yesterday, with Dakota Joshua now out week to week and whatever that's going to mean and however many games he's going to miss, he was starting, finally, I think, to have a little bit of physical impact. Got in the fight against Nashville. And not that he needs to fight. He got hurt last year in a fight. But he got in a fight because the Predators took exception to a hit that he threw on Philip Forsberg. And in the game before that in Seattle, there were a couple of series and shifts where he was involved in chaos and he was into it with Brandon Montour. And, so I think we were seeing Dakota Joshua getting back to the physical way that he has to play when he's successful. And yeah, they're going to miss him. Because, look, the way this lineup is constructed, Kiefer Sherwood did his thing again last night, 10 more hits, although I didn't think he had a particularly strong game, and he was in the penalty box for the early power play goal. But you're going to get that from Kiefer Sherwood. JT Miller, on the nights that he's into it and motivated, he can be a physical force. And Phil DiGiuseppe finishes checks, but I don't think he's an intimidating presence out there. Beyond that, it's a pretty passive group of forwards. They've got the size in the back end and some guys that I think are willing to mix it up on defense. But just the way this roster is constructed right now, this isn't a group that is out there looking for that pound of flesh in terms of any sort of measure of revenge. So I wasn't surprised that there wasn't from the Canucks. And quite frankly, I don't think there should have been. I thought there were a bunch of good body checks in the first period. There were sequences there where the puck was clearly secondary on both sides. Like teams, it had a good feel. Like for a Monday night game, I thought there was a fair bit of juice in that hockey game. And
Jeff, I forget who tweeted it, but I saw someone say, like, the Canadians are treating this like game 1, round 1.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a playoff style game, especially early on.
I wasn't sure if fun. I was just enjoying it because of the vividness of Amazon, like 20 minutes into the game, I'm like, this is pretty fun hockey.
That game has some thump, and then the other thing is the Montreal crowd usually sorts to elevate.
They were in a good mood. They were in a good mood too.
They should be.
And they got a team that's chasing a playoff spot for the first time in 3 years. And
I think quite a likable group. Like, as I obviously had an arm's length with the Montreal Canadiens, but they've got some star power. A guy like Gooley throwing the body, like that'll get people into it.
Hudson, Suzuki, skill wise,
that guy. If things really get squirrely, he's around there. And the Canucks didn't see the backup goaltender, but what a story he is as well. Jakub Dobish with giving up 1 goal in 2 games. So again, just bring it full circle. Like your point about 4 goals on the road. Like I know they got a single point out of it, but they scored enough to win that hockey game. And I think that's got to be the biggest frustration, or one of the biggest frustrations for Rick Tocchet is you score 4 on the road, but you give up 5, and that math just doesn't square at the end of the night.
Especially talking hockey. You give up 4 or you score 4, you should win. Great stuff, Jeff. We're going to catch up with you later in the week. Thanks for this.
All right, guys.